The library pact. With her heel on crushed plastic, Emily smiled at her mother. The tape, the one that held 40 years of secrets, was nothing but magnetic dust on the Boise pavement. Behind them, sirens wailed. Police cars ringed the library lawn, and in the basement, 3 men bled into the concrete while the industrial shredder hummed its final song. But the story didn't start here. 13 hours earlier, Emily's hands had gripped a crowbar. Cold metal, dusty concrete, a single overhead bulb casting everything in shades of rust and shadow. The mahogany bookshelf had been rotting for decades, its wood soft enough to surrender. She'd been hired by the Boise Public Library to renovate the basement, to restore historical character, they'd said. Instead, she was about to unearth something the town had spent 4 decades burying. The crowbar slid into the gap between floorboards and shelf base. She heaved, her boots sliding on grit. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Her knuckles went white against the steel. The wood groaned, splintered, then shifted 6 inches to the left. A seam appeared in the concrete wall, narrow, vertical. And behind it, a draft of cold air that smelled like metal and time. Emily pulled a yellow DeWalt flashlight from her tool belt, clicked it. The beam cut through darkness, and she saw them. Steep wooden stairs descending. The wood was rotting, the grain visible even from 10 feet away. The stairs went down into nothing. She descended, each step creaked under her weight, protesting. At the bottom, a gray metal locker. She pulled the latch, unlocked. Inside, a rusted metal box, heavy. The kind they used in the 1980s for storage. Someone had stenciled white letters across its lid. LPADM. A padlock held it shut. Emily used the crowbar's tip to snap the lock loop. It fell to the concrete with a thud that echoed. She lifted the lid. VHS tapes, mini DV cassettes, dozens of them. Labels handwritten on each spine. Simmons, bedroom. Thompson, 2018 election. Caldwell, private. Residence, 847 Oak Street. Her breath caught. What the hell is this? The whisper came out strangled. By 7 p.m., Emily's hands were still shaking as she fed a VHS tape into the old VCR player she'd brought home. Her thumb jammed the play button. The machine wheezed, gears grinding, and then the TV flickered to life. She'd chosen one at random. Council meeting, private, June 2022. The screen showed a boardroom, high-angle shot, security camera footage, she realized. Dated June 14th, 2022, 3 months ago. Mayor Henderson sat at a table, Martha Simmons next to him. A map spread between them, not just any map. It was the neighborhood where Emily lived, where most of the town lived. Henderson pointed a red laser at the map. It traced across streets, stopping at individual houses. He marked a red X over one property, an older home on Elm Street. Emily recognized it, Mrs. Caldwell's place. The woman had spoken against the city's new zoning proposal 2 weeks before this footage was recorded. On the tape, Henderson leaned in. His voice was clear, undistorted by the hidden microphone. If he won't vote right, he won't live here. Emily's stomach contracted. On screen, Martha circled the marked property. She spoke. We leak the structural issues to the appraiser. He sells, or we make him sell. The tape ran another 3 minutes. Henderson outlined a system. Systematic, practiced. They had done this before, many times. Emily gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. Then, a sound outside. A car door slamming. Heavy footsteps on gravel. Long shadows stretched across the floor. Emily ejected the tape. Her fingers fumbled with the box lid. She was trying to hide the evidence when the front door handle began to rattle. The door swung open. Mark, her next-door neighbor. Deputy Sheriff Mark, though he wasn't in uniform tonight. He held a heavy maglite flashlight like a weapon. He didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped over the threshold and closed the door behind him with a soft, deliberate click. "Heard some noise from the site today, Emily," Mark said. His voice was low, menacing. "Thought you might have brought work home." His eyes darted around the room, then landed on the metal box. Emily stepped in front of the coffee table, shielding it. "Get out of my house." Mark lunged. His large hand grabbed her upper arm. He squeezed, fingers digging into muscle. She winced, pulling back. "Get out of my house, Mark." Her voice cracked with anger and fear. He shoved her aside. She stumbled into a floor lamp. It crashed to the ground, the bulb shattering. Mark reached for the metal box, but Emily grabbed a heavy glass vase from the side table. She swung upward with all her strength, catching his shoulder. The vase exploded. Water and flowers spilled across the carpet. Mark roared in anger. Emily grabbed the metal box by its handle and sprinted toward the kitchen. Mark lunged again, his fingers grazing her hair as she knocked over a chair to block him. She yanked the kitchen door open and burst through. The back door! She scrambled through it into the night. The old Volvo was parked in the driveway. Emily fumbled with her keys. The metal box went into the passenger seat. She turned the ignition. The engine coughed, sputtered, then caught. The Volvo's headlights blazed. Mark's fist slammed against the driver's side window as Emily gunned the accelerator. The car lurched forward. He fell back. She didn't look in the mirror. Rain started falling at midnight. Emily sat on the edge of a stained motel bed, a place called the Desert Star, 15 miles outside of Boise. The rain came down in sheets, drumming against the window. The sound was almost beautiful, if she wasn't terrified. She had rigged up a portable DVD player with AV inputs, connected to the VCR she'd stolen from her house. On the screen, another tape, another grainy recording. This one showed her street, her own house. In the footage, dated last week, she watched herself approach her front door. The timestamp read 4:47 p.m. She'd been going to pick up groceries that day. The camera was positioned to catch her entering and exiting. Someone had been watching her, cataloging her movements. Emily's skin crawled. A shadow crossed the gap under the door. The door handle turned. Silently. Then the door exploded inward. Wood splinters flew. A man in a black tracksuit burst into the room. Rain blew in behind him. Emily lunged for the metal box, but he swept the VCR off the table with a crash. The player went flying. He grabbed Emily's hair, jerking her head back. Emily reached for the lamp on the nightstand and swung it upward. The ceramic base connected with his chin. Sparks flew. Electricity crackled. The man reeled back, cursing. Emily crawled over the bed, the metal box clutched to her chest. The enforcer recovered quickly. He grabbed her ankle and dragged her back across the scratchy bedspread. Emily kicked out with her heel, hitting him in the throat. He choked, gasping for air. She rolled off the bed and lunged through the open door. Her feet pounded on the outdoor balcony. Behind her, the enforcer stumbled out, still choking. Emily leapt down the final 3 stairs. Her ankles clicked on the wet asphalt. She didn't stop. She ran toward the parking lot, the metal box growing heavier with each step. The neon vacancy sign flickered red overhead. Behind her, the enforcer was on his radio. And in the distance, multiple pairs of headlights were converging on the motel. The parking lot was empty, except for one silver Mercedes. 4 a.m. The rain had stopped. Everything smelled like wet asphalt and diesel fuel. Mr. Aris stepped out of the car, the former library director, Emily's mentor. He looked frail, leaning on a silver cane. concerned. Emily rushed to him, holding the tape out like a weapon. "I found them, Aris, all of them. Henderson and Mark, they're destroying lives. We have to go to the FBI. We have to—" She was sobbing, hysterical. The words tumbled out broken and desperate. Aris took the tape from her. His fingers were cold, steady. "They're systematically forcing families out," Emily continued, her voice cracking. "Taking their properties. Building wealth by destroying—" "Get in the car," Aris said quietly. Emily did. The leather was warm. The engine purred. Aris drove in silence for several minutes, heading out of the city toward the empty roads beyond. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, high-tech remote. He pressed a button. The car doors locked with a sharp clack. Aris glanced at Emily. His expression had shifted, no longer concerned, no longer frail. "I built this system 40 years ago," he said, his voice smooth and cold. "Henderson and the others are just the current custodians. You were never supposed to find the archives." Emily's blood went cold. "LPADM doesn't stand for Library Pact Administration," Aris continued. "It stands for Legacy Preservation. And your family has been one of its primary architects, Emily. Your father set up the first cameras in 1984. Your mother has been on the Investment Council for 20 years. The car swerved onto an empty road. Headlights off. Just the sound of tires on asphalt. Aris reached into his side pocket. Emily saw the needle, a syringe. Clear liquid inside. She gripped the door handle, but it wouldn't give. "Child safety locks." "I'm sorry," Aris said, "but you know too much now." Emily slammed her elbow into his ribs. Aris grunted in pain. She grabbed the steering wheel and yanked it hard to the right. Tires screeched. The car swerved violently. Aris's head snapped back. Emily kicked at his leg, knocking it away from the brakes. The car veered off the road toward a ditch. Metal scraped against a guardrail. Then impact. The airbag exploded in a white cloud. Emily's vision filled with powder. She coughed, gasping. Her forehead stung. When she touched her fingers to it, they came back wet with blood. The shattered passenger window was right there. Emily kicked at it with both feet. Glass scattered across the wet grass. She crawled through, dragging the metal box behind her. Aris was slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious. She scrambled up the muddy embankment. Her boots squelched in the mud. She looked back. In the distance, several pairs of headlights were approaching the crash site, moving fast. The pact was coming for her. The hunting cabin was abandoned. Rotting wood. A door that hung open like a yawn. Inside, cobwebs and the smell of old animal droppings. Emily found a battery-operated Panasonic television with a built-in VCR player. She huddled in the corner, shivering. The dawn light filtered through cracks in the walls. She pulled out a tape she'd missed before. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely get it into the slot. The label read, "Collins, Genesis." The screen flickered to life. Home video format. A younger man appeared on screen. Her father, Thomas. He was shaking hands with Aris in the library basement. The same basement where she'd found the box. Thomas was handing over a leather ledger. "For the bloodline, Aris," her father said on the tape. His voice was proud, almost reverent. "We keep the town clean." The date on the corner of the screen, 1984. The footage cut to a montage. Her father setting up hidden cameras in neighbors' vents. His hands steady and practiced. This wasn't his first installation. Emily's jaw went slack. Another cut. Her mother, Sarah, sitting across from Martha the realtor. They were signing a document. a thick stack of papers. Transfer of assets, the document header read. Library pact, asset reallocation. Her mother smiled as she signed. Elegant, composed. This was her inheritance. Not money from her parents, not a house or savings. This. The knowledge that her entire family wealth, everything she'd grown up with, had come from forcing families out of their homes. Emily's hands rested on the metal box. Her legacy of shame. The tree root caught Emily's foot without warning. She tumbled forward, and the metal box slid down the ravine. The sound of branches breaking echoed through the woods. Mark and Henderson emerged from the brush, both armed. Mark had his duty weapon drawn. Henderson held a 9mm pistol with the casual confidence of someone who'd used it before. "Give it up, Emily," Henderson said. His voice was smooth, mocking. "You're a Collins. You belong with us, not against us." Emily's chest heaved. She was trapped between them and the ravine. Mark kicked. His boot connected with her ribs. Emily rolled, groaning. Pain shot through her side. Mark reached down to pull her up, but she grabbed a handful of dirt and flinging it into his eyes. He screamed, blinded. Emily tackled Henderson's knees. He fell backward. She reached for his pistol. They wrestled for it, hands locked over cold steel. The gun fired, a deafening blast into the air. Leaves rained down where the bullet had torn through branches. Mark recovered. His maglite flashlight raised. Everything went white. Emily woke to the sound of the industrial shredder. She was duct taped to a wooden chair. The basement, the renovation site. Everything here was covered in dust and the smell of decay. Nearby, the massive shredder hummed, metal teeth spinning, waiting. Open boxes of tapes were stacked everywhere, ready for destruction. Mr. Aris stood nearby, his head bandaged. He held a burning match. Individual tapes curled and blackened as he burned them one by one. The plastic melted. Black smoke curled toward the ceiling. "Your father would be very disappointed," Aris said, his voice paternal and lethal. "The box is gone, Emily. Your evidence is ash. And you? You're just a schoolteacher who had a tragic breakdown. You stole library property. You fled the scene of a car accident. You attacked officers." He dropped another tape into the flames. "The police found you confused, injured, raving about conspiracies. No one will believe anything you say." Henderson tilted the chair toward the shredder's intake. Emily's boots were inches from the spinning metal teeth. She strained against the duct tape, but it held. Henderson smiled. The shredder's motor got louder. The teeth spun faster. Emily could feel the vibration in her chair. Heat radiated from the machine. She closed her eyes. A small detail flashed in her mind. The mini DV tape she'd tucked into her boot earlier. That moment in the forest, after Mark had knocked her unconscious. She'd come to for just a few seconds, long enough to slip one tape into her boot. One of the tapes from the Collins Genesis series. They found the box, but they never searched her. Emily moved her wrists in short, sharp sawing motions. The glass shard, from the car crash, cut through the duct tape behind her back. Slow, careful. The edges of the glass bit into her palms. Blood dripped onto the chair. The tape snapped. As Henderson leaned in to push the chair the final inch, Emily lunged upward. The chair crashed backward into him. He fell toward the shredder, his arms flailing. His tie was caught in the metal teeth. The machine yanked him down. He was pulled toward the intake, his hands clawing at his neck. Mark lunged at Emily, but she grabbed a heavy mahogany plank and swung it like a bat. It connected with his jaw. A sickening crack. Mark's head snapped back. Blood sprayed from his mouth. Emily hit the emergency stop button. The shredder halted. Henderson wheezing, pinned against the metal. The tie shredded, but still wrapped around his throat. Emily grabbed Henderson's phone from the table. The screen showed 10 missed calls from the sheriff. Emily stood over Aris. He was bleeding, broken on the dusty concrete. She pulled the mini DV tape from her boot, the one labeled Collins, Genesis. She held it up. "This tape doesn't just destroy the town," Emily said. Her voice was steady, no longer crying. "It destroys me, and I'm going to play it for the world." Aris looked up at her, defeated. He tried to reach for her, but his arm fell short. His breath came in ragged gasps. The sirens were outside the library now. Close. Getting closer. Emily walked out of the library's front doors into the bright Boise sun. Police cars ringed the lawn. A news van was parked on the street. Dozens of officers were securing the perimeter. She walked straight to the reporter. Blood on her face, bruises blooming on her neck. The mini DV tape held in her right hand. Then a black SUV pulled up. Emily's mother stepped out. Sarah. She looked elegant, dangerous. She walked over to Emily and pulled her into an embrace. Her hand patted Emily's back gently. "I called them, darling," Sarah whispered. Her voice was barely audible over the sirens. "I knew you'd do the right thing and clear the trash out for us." Aris and Henderson were getting greedy. "Now, the pact belongs to us." Emily froze. Her hand clenched around the tape. She looked at the reporter's camera. Dozens of news cameras capturing this moment. The daughter embracing the mother. The hero and her protector. She realized what she'd done. She hadn't destroyed the system. She'd simply cleared the old guard to make room for the new. Emily looked at the tape in her hand, then at her mother's cold, triumphant blue eyes, then at the camera. She dropped the tape on the pavement and crushed it with her heel. The plastic snapped. The magnetic film crumpled. She turned to her mother and smiled. "Let's go home, Mom," Emily said. Her voice was sharp, witty, terrifying. "We have a neighborhood to run." Sarah's hand slipped into Emily's. They walked toward the SUV together. The cameras flashed. The sirens continued to wail. Emily didn't look back. The SUV door closed with a heavy, final click.